Alright, in this unit we're going to be staying with cell processes, but we're going to be focusing on this process of cellular respiration. In essence, what's happening in cellular respiration is cells are converting um, food sources that are taken in and converting it into energy. So the cell respiration process is just going to show us how energy is formed in our cells by the food that's brought in, or food that is created through other processes. So let's go ahead and get started with this. We know that energy, whether it be getting ourselves out of bed in the morning, waking ourselves up, walking to the bathroom, walking to class, whatever it be, everything that we do requires energy. We've talked about this before too. We know that the energy molecule stored in our bodies or stored in our cells is called ATP, which stands for adenosine triphosphate. So adenosine, a type of amino acid. There's one adenosine and then three phosphates that form this ATP molecule. If you think about what you had for dinner last night, okay, whatever you ate is going to have certain nutrients in it that can be broken down, and then that ATP can be created from that, whether it be carbohydrates like certain sugars, breads and pastas, something like that, anything that had proteins in it, any types of lipids, which are going to be our fats, those macromolecules that we eat from the foods that we take in. We can break those down and then convert them into ATP through this cell respiration process. Okay, so what we're going to be looking at is how do organisms actually get ATP out of the food that they have or that they take in. Okay, so how do plants get ATP from the food they make through photosynthesis, and then how do animals actually get that ATP from the food that they take in? And once we figure out how this process works, we'll be looking at cellular respiration. Okay? All right. We're going to be focusing on photosynthesis after this unit, but just for a quick review, you know what the formula for photosynthesis is. You know the equation. Plants need water and they need carbon dioxide. Okay, so they take in water through their roots. They take in carbon dioxide through a process called transpiration through their leaves. They take it out of the atmosphere. Sunlight is added to this process. They have the chlorophyll. We'll get into this later, but the chlorophyll and the chloroplast will absorb the sunlight, and they'll use that with the water and the carbon dioxide. They'll push this reaction, and then as a result, they'll produce C6H12O6, which we know is glucose, and then a byproduct, which is oxygen. All right, so you should be familiar with the photosynthesis formula. This is how plants make glucose, which is their form of food. All right, we know we need that food. We know we need that oxygen. And then we know that we are going to, as a waste product, we're going to exhale or get rid of carbon dioxide and water. So we kind of do the opposite of what plants do. We need the food, we need the oxygen, and then through reactions that we go through, byproducts are going to be carbon dioxide and water, which, like I said, is the opposite of plants. So, look at this equation. C6H12O6, which is glucose, which is a sugar. You add oxygen to that, the reaction is going to occur, and a byproduct is going to be water and carbon dioxide. This process, which is the exact opposite of photosynthesis, is called cell respiration. Look at the two formulas. I just mentioned this. Okay, notice that the products over here for photosynthesis are what start the reaction for cell respiration. And then the same goes for the other side of the equation as well. So cellular respiration is just the exact opposite of photosynthesis. Plants go through photosynthesis, they produce that food. Animals take that food, take in oxygen, They go through cell respiration. Byproducts are water, carbon dioxide, but another byproduct up here at the end would be ATP. Okay, so what is cell respiration? Cell respiration is where oxygen is taken in. Think about how any living organism, most living organisms are going to take oxygen in. They're going to breathe it in through some type of lung structures. Then that's going to enter into the bloodstream. Then oxygen is going to be carried to different cells throughout that organism's body. So oxygen is going to be taken in. That's going to help break down carbohydrates, these sugars, and then the result is going to be the production of ATP. Think about organelles. We've looked at organelles. Both plant and animal cells have mostly the same organelles, except plants have a couple different ones. Okay, but the organelle in particular that we're going to be looking at are the mitochondria. All right, a mitochondrion, which can be found in a plant and animal cell, okay, is very important for cell respiration because cell respiration is going to occur in the liquid cytoplasm part of the mitochondria. So it's going to occur inside these folds where the matrix or the cytoplasm is going to be found. Let's review quickly the structure of a mitochondria. Okay, this just like the picture before. You've got this inner membrane of the mitochondria. Inside the mitochondria is the matrix. You've got this space in between the outer membrane and the inner membrane, and then you've got the outer membrane. All right, so if you look at this picture again, here is the outer membrane of the mitochondrion. Here is the inner membrane of the mitochondrion. You can see it folded up, and the reason it's folded is because the more folds you have, the more surface area you have, and that's very important because the more surface area that you can find on this inner membrane, the more space available to allow for the production of ATP to occur. Okay, and then inside this matrix is very important. This is where you find the cytoplasm, and so the production of ATP, this cell respiration process, is going to occur inside this inner membrane of the mitochondria. All right, so we know where it happens. All right, we know it happens inside the inner membrane, the matrix part of the mitochondrion, ATP production. So cell respiration is going to occur inside here. The end result of cell respiration is going to be ATP. Okay. For cell respiration, let's start looking at all the processes involved in it. So we're getting into the big picture of cell respiration. You start out with glycolysis. We'll look at that in a minute. Then there are two pathways that you can go after glycolysis occurs. You can have aerobic respiration, which involves the Krebs cycle. Then you end with the electron transport chain. Or you can go a different pathway and go through anaerobic respiration. And you can have two end results through anaerobic. You can have alcoholic fermentation or lactic acid fermentation. Okay, so this is the big picture of the big parts of cell respiration. When glycolysis occurs, you'll get some ATP produced. Depending on what pathway you go through, you can get ATP produced through the aerobic respiration. You can also get ATP produced through the anaerobic. So these are the two pathways, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at what glycolysis does. Then we'll focus on the aerobic side, and then we'll look at the anaerobic side, so we know what's happening and what would cause each side to occur and what's happening during each part. Okay, what does aerobic mean? What does anaerobic mean? When you're looking at these two pathways, if you're going to have aerobic respiration occur, this means cell respiration is going to occur in the presence of oxygen, or it needs oxygen in the cell, in the mitochondrion, for aerobic respiration to occur. Okay? If there's not an adequate amount of oxygen, that means anaerobic respiration is going to occur. You still get ATP produced, but if there's a lack of oxygen, anaerobic respiration will occur. So the terms aerobic means with oxygen, occurs with oxygen. Anaerobic means it occurs without oxygen. That's what those two terms mean. All right, let's get into glycolysis. This first step of the cell respiration process. When glycolysis is going to start, it's going to start off with a 6-carbon molecule. Usually, it's always going to be a carbohydrate. Usually, it's going to be glucose. And then once glycolysis is done, once you get through the production of, or once you get through the cycle or the process of glycolysis, it's going to end with 2 3-carbon molecules called pyruvate. So what's going to happen in glycolysis is your 6-carbon sugar, usually glucose, is going to be broken down into 2 individual pieces, and these individual 3-carbon pieces are called pyruvate. When that happens, it's also going to produce 2 ATP molecules. Okay? Now this stage, this glycolysis stage, does not occur in the mitochondria. And I want you to think about this, right? This glycolysis part, the first part to get cell respiration going, glycolysis actually occurs in the cytoplasm of the cell. Okay, floating out in the cytoplasm of the cell. Glycolysis is going to occur there. It's going to break down the sugar into 2 pyruvate molecules. It's also going to produce 2 ATP. This can happen with or without oxygen. Okay, so it doesn't matter if there's oxygen present. It does matter where it occurs. Glycolysis will occur in the cytoplasm of the cell. Produces 2 pyruvate. So it's going to break glucose down into 2 pyruvate. Produce 2 ATP molecules. After glycolysis, you can go the aerobic version pathway or you can go the anaerobic version pathway. And we're going to get into aerobic first.